The struggle is real. The struggle is real. The season can be a struggle, but so is the God we serve. So is the God we serve. And we're going to hear more about their stories later, and we're trying to shift. We got a bunch of baptisms shifting them between both events. The message I got for you today hit me at the beach. I got my souvenir shirt from our beach trip as a reminder to you that if the message sucks, blame the beach. Don't blame Ben. Don't blame God. Blame the beach. And blame the fact that I had to spend a week in the same house as Derek. Just blame him. We come back from the beach and we immediately have to practice. Like immediately we have to begin to practice what I'm about to preach to you. I told you last week that Derek's dad, Papa, is what I call him, had cancer. You know, we found out he had cancer. What I didn't tell you is that now Derek is having to not just work at Catalyst, he's having to cover the cabinet shop so that Papa can be taken care of in this season. And that doesn't just affect Derek, that affects everybody here. Let me tell you why. Because before this season that we're starting to just get our head, we're right there. We're in the middle of it. I ain't even gonna lie. It's stressful even talking about it. Before this season, we were overwhelmed and overworked, and there was more hours in the day than not just Derek and I could handle, but our entire staff. Before this, a few weeks back, there was more work that could be done. Before this, our staff is not nearly as big as our size church. Before this, we were trying organizationally to catch up with our growth as a church since we just exploded a couple years ago for the context that we live in before this. Before this, Sarah Harper went part-time at Tabernacle, and Derek and Sarah took a pay cut so that she could volunteer here in the week to help us so that we could keep up with our growth and continue to reach more people. Before this, it was insane. And now it just went to next level. Well, I have no idea. You have no idea. I didn't know mental fatigue existed like the last couple of years, but now it's another level. And Derek and I were talking last week, and we said this. We decided that we are going to plan ahead, but we are not going to overthink ahead, or we'll lose our minds. We're going to plan ahead. When seasons suck, when life hits you in the... I don't want anybody to get pissed. It's too early in the message to do that. When life kicks you in the rear end, if you overthink it, it's going to lead to, the only thing it can lead to is overwhelming you. And you will not just be overwhelmed, you will live overwhelmed, and you will eventually stay overwhelmed. So we committed, we are going to plan forward, but we are not going to overthink forward, because I'm going to tell you something, Catalyst, life can suck, but it does not stop. You can stop. Life will never stop. You can stop, but life won't. And I want to talk about, my title today is I want to talk to you about when stuff gets stupid. When stuff gets stupid. Matter of fact, I'm making up for the last 2 weeks. I gave y'all a break from hashtags. So when we go live at 11, you better share this video. And with hashtag, I got 2 of them. I'm making up for lost time. Hashtag when stuff gets stupid. Hashtag don't overthink it. I want you to share it because somebody in your friends group, somebody that follows you on social media needs to hear this message. A lot of people do. We've identified over the last several months since we came back, we're about tired of this background, but we realized we needed these messages. We have identified that this season is not normal. Look at somebody and say, now what? Ask them like you want to know it. Say, now what? The question is, what are you going to do with this season? That's the question. We are going to finish this entire theme today. What are you going to do with this season? Because this one will eventually end. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. I don't know how long it's going to affect so many people, but it will end. The world's not coming to an end. America's not falling apart. The church isn't. This season will end, but there will be more ahead of you. You better get ready. And the question is, what do you do? What are you going to do with this season? Because stuff will get stupid. Seasons will get stupid. Let me tell you something. Look at somebody. Amen me. Don't look at somebody. Amen me. Say, people get real stupid. Amen. And you have two choices. When stuff gets stupid, seasons get stupid, and people begin to live in their insecurities and they get stupid, you got two choices. Here it is. You can overthink it. You can overthink or you can move. You can overthink or you can move. And I'm going to tell you something about overthinking. Overthinking, and I'm being polite when I say this, overthinking is at least as bad as not thinking. You want to see it? Let me show you how overthinking has affected our country. Let's just start at our country, not just individual. Let's start at our country. Overthinking. I have seen hate in people that are in church every Sunday over when schools start back and how individual schools handle their business like they're not trying to do right. We got churches that are flicking the bird at the government and playing victim, acting like the government is persecuting them because they're being asked to do whatever it takes to protect lives, which the church for 2,000 years was created to protect lives. We overthink everything. We overthink everything. We get offended. We get offended when we're told that we have prejudice. Let me just go ahead and put this out there. This is including me. Every human being on the planet of the earth, planet Earth, I said that wrong. I'll get better by 11, hopefully. Every human being on this planet has unconscious bias, aka prejudice. The point is not to overthink it or be offended by it. The point is to be a better human, be aware of it, and do something about it, whatever it looks like in your life. We all got it. We're all prejudiced. We prejudge something. All of us. Your individual life, we overthink it. You ready? You ready? You ready for me to kind of get in your own business and get in my business too? Your individual, your spouse disappoints you. Or consistently disappoints you. And instead of address it, you overthink it and you let it resonate in your spirit for so long that before you know it, you've got serious marital issues and the bridge may even be burned. Because you overthought it long enough to be overwhelmed and to stay confused. Oh, you got rejected by somebody. You got rejected. And you've been processing for so long and your brain's on overload and your brain needs a freaking break, guys. Why couldn't I make them happy? Why didn't they want to get better? Is it me? And you overthink rejection. It doesn't even have to be from a girlfriend, a boyfriend. It can be from anybody. You overthink it and your brain needs a break. You can overthink or you can move. Your brain needs a break. You obsess over problems, over scars, over guilt, over mistakes. You obsess, and finally when you can't handle it, you find a substance to numb it so that you don't have to deal with it or feel it, and you do this over and over and over and over. So that's what addiction comes from. Some of you got bills to pay. I know you got issues. I know it's a stupid season. You got bills to pay, mouths to feed. You have no idea where the money's going to come from every month, but you know that you're responsible for it. Look, I just want to make things simple today. The season is stressful enough, and the fact that you keep overthinking things is not going to make more sense out of it. It's going to make less sense out of it, and you're going to get stuck in chaos and confusion because you overthought it, and that's the reason you're overwhelmed. So if you'll let me today, I just want to make things simple because the world and the season we're in is stupid enough. In the Old Testament, God made Israel a promise. You have promises, they had promises. Their main promise was Israel. God said, Israel, I got a land for you. It's your promise, a land for them to build their legacy, build their life. They're still over there in that land today. That this is where I've given you a promise. This is where you're going to build. They spent 40 years before we're going to pick up 40 years window shopping. the promise God made them. And finally, they decide we're going to go in. They get enough strength. They get enough, at least enough where they're afraid, but they're going to go for it, and they go in. They go in. They say, it's time. And they come to this city, and this city stands in the way. It's called Jericho. It stands in the way of their promise. And what I want to ask you as I preach the rest of this message, I want to ask, what is standing in the way? What walls are between you and what God has for you? What is the barrier between what you're believing for? Between you and what you're believing for? What is the barrier between the breakthrough that you've been praying for and seeking out for years? What is the wall? Look at somebody and say, what's your wall? What's your wall? What's your wall? For Israel, it was the walls of Jericho, because this city, you can read about it in history. It's not just in the Bible. The walls of Jericho in that time were a fortress. That period, most people thought they were like impenetrable. It was a wall. And I want to take you to scripture today, because what God asked them to do was stupid. I'm going to put it out there. It was stupid. Sometimes things are stupid when you don't see the whole picture, and God never gives you the whole picture. So most of the time what he asks you to do is going to feel stupid. And the season that you're living in and the people that are responsible for it, you're going to feel like it's stupid. And what he asked was stupid. So let's go into the scripture, because I want to show you. I'm going to skip around a little bit. Joshua 6. It says, now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. I'm telling you, some things get stupid in your life because people and the enemy is afraid that you're going to get your crap together. Oh, they tightened them walls up because they knew Israel was a threat. No one was allowed to go out or in, but the Lord said to Joshua, here it is, this is what God said. He says, I have given you Jericho, its kings, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men should march. Here it is. It says, stupid. It was stupid then, and it still sounds stupid now. You and your fighting men should march around the town once for 6 days. Not fight, just move. On the 7th day, you were to march around the town 7 times with the priest blowing the horn. So now we're not just marching, we're doing awkward stuff that like Catalyst makes you do. When you hear the priest give one long blast on the ram's horns, have all the people shout as loud as they can. So now, like, it's getting real Catalyst awkward. We ain't even made you do that yet. Then the walls of the town will collapse. What? I'm just going to walk around them. I'm just going to move, and they're just going to fall. And the people can charge straight into the town. He's saying, then you can take it. On the 7th day, so they walked around once for 6. On the 7th, they're supposed to march around it 7 times. On the 7th day, the Israelites got up at dawn and marched. Sometimes you just got to get up and go in the morning. It's got to go. You don't even know what the promise looks like, but you got to go. They got up at dawn and they marched the town, and as they had done before. But this time they went around the town 7 times. The 7th time around, as the priest sounded the long blast on the horns, Joshua commanded the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the town. He said, you go take it. Spoiler alert. Y'all want a spoiler alert? If you hadn't read the story or heard about it, the walls fell. Oh, it was stupid. It didn't make sense. The walls fell. Israel took the city that day. What was standing between them and part of their promise, we're going to see later. What was standing between them and part of their promise was because they did something that made no sense. Sure, we see that story. But I promise you, when Joshua told them, this is what God's telling me, I promise you that it seemed stupid. It seemed at least as stupid as this COVID-20 season. And I'm saying COVID-20 because it ain't COVID-19 anymore. Oh, it seemed at least as stupid as your financial issues. It seemed at least as stupid as the scars that you've had to overcome, the setbacks that you've had to fight for years to catch up. It seems stupid, and I promise you that somebody looked at Joshua and said, Joshua, like, we're warriors. You're asking us just to walk around a wall for a week. A freaking week. And it's just going to fall. I start thinking, like, I get it in my mind all week. I couldn't get it out, so I'm going to have to say it. I thought about this kid that's old enough to start getting skeptical of Santa Claus. Sits in Santa's lap and goes, let me get this straight, Santa. You deliver toys to every kid on the planet in one night, and you don't even get arrested for breaking in somebody's house. Yeah, it felt stupid. And there's some things in your life that are comical, but they're painful. Why do I have to deal with this unnecessary crap? What they did was stupid. How I feel is stupid. All I've got to do because of the stupid ways I responded and the years I wasted, it's stupid. God, it feels stupid, and what you're asking me to do feels stupid. What you need to do to actually change, have real change, is stupid. Oh, but here's the entire message. Look at somebody and say, but they still marched. They still moved. It didn't make sense, but they didn't sit there overthinking, trying to make it make sense, because you know what would have happened? We wouldn't even hear about Israel. They marched. They moved. It did not make sense, but they still moved. And I promise you, some things in your life may never make sense, but the walls will never come down in your life until you begin to move. And I want to help you apply this to yourself, your story, and the season that we're all living in together right now today. Can I do that? Can I apply this to your situation today? Because you can overthink or you can move. You can obsess and you can stay overwhelmed, or you can begin to, even though it doesn't make sense, you're going to move. Because the walls came, God knocked the walls down, but he asked Israel to move. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to say the next few things. I'm going to say it at the end of every application. I'm going to say this. We're going to practice. Y'all ready? I'm going to say, don't overthink it. And I'm going to point to you, and you're going to say, move. You ready? Y'all ready? I know it's 9:30. We got a smaller crowd. You ready? Here we go. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. There it is. I like that. I hope 11 can do that, and there are going to be a lot more people in here. All right, here we go. You got married. You got married for life. Oh, yeah. I hear you. You got married for life. At least that's what you committed to. And either death happened or some type of damage that divorce had to happen. And you have been overthinking. You've been stuck in however long the divorce happened. You've been trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong, what could I have done better, where did it go wrong? And you're trying to make sense out of years. They died, and you're trying to wrap your head around things that you could have done better. And you're stuck whenever you're stuck in the season that you started overthinking. You're not moving, you're overthinking. Quit overthinking it. Quit overthinking. Oh man, you're young and you're having health issues. Trust me. I had literally, other than Tourette's, no health issues until we started Catalyst. Then Derek and I it went to hell. You're young and you're like, I'm too young. I got too much life to live, too many memories to make. I'm sitting here and I'm this age. You're discouraged and you're overthinking, how is my life going to play out? I'm already hurt. I'm hurt like I'm 80 and I'm 20. You're discouraged and you're like, what am I going to do, man? If I feel like this now, what am I going to do then? And you're processing. Quit overthinking it. Your kids are acting crazy. They're troubled. It's easy to live in a world. It's easy to get troubled in this craziness. And what you do is you've been just obsessing. You've been just overthinking. What could I have done better? I could have been better. Everybody could have been better. Man, if Angie died tomorrow, I would think about some things that I could have been better, and we're building a pretty good life together. And you're obsessing, or you actually know that you were a good parent and your kids are still troubled and you're heartbroken and you're overthinking and you're overreacting and you're overcompensating and you aren't moving. Quit overthinking. Move. Oh, you got rejected. Oh man, that's the start of most people's senseless behavior. Because we don't realize when we try to make sense out of stuff that is never going to make sense, it will make less sense and we will live confused and overwhelmed. So what happens is we get rejected. Somebody, it doesn't have to be a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse. It can be family, friend. It can be anybody. You get rejected. And for some reason, that rejection sent you started trying to make sense out of everything. People don't make sense. And you can spend your life trying to make sense out of somebody that will never make sense. And you have let rejection cause you to overthink and overthink and overthink and overthink. And you need to stop. You need to stop trying to make sense out of what they did. You take things so personally with everybody because at some point you got rejected and you begin to process and you were a prisoner in your brain. Quit overthinking. You've overthought so much that you're so sensitive. People can't even deal with you because you're so sensitive. And you're so sensitive and you're so defensive and you get on the defense so quick because you've spent years overthinking. Let me prove it. Oh, man, we hear it all the time. Somebody gets pissed off at Catalyst. Somebody gets pissed off at me because as we built Catalyst, it grew, and there's people in my life that I could not give the attention that I once did now. So you get this, well, they just don't call. I hear it from all the time. I have to counsel people that feel this way about other people. They just don't call me. They don't care about me. They only call me when they want something. We're sensitive, man. We're sensitive because we tried to make sense out of things our whole life. And they just don't call me. They don't care. Mine and Derek's response always, even at people that we can tell they're out the back door at Catalyst because we got so big that we have to reach other people, we have to give people what we can, not what they want all the time. We tell them all the time, our answer, do you call them? Do you call them? The response I usually get from people is, well, I just don't want to bother them. The people that love you, let me just go ahead and make sense out of this for you so you'll quit overthinking it. The people who love you want to be bothered, but they don't want to read your freaking mind. People are never going to take initiative except hopefully your spouse will try. And we overthink and we're sensitive trying to make sense because at some point we got shocked. Somebody shocked us, and that's okay, but you got to quit making sense out of the person and the people and the seasons and the struggles that shocked you. Quit overthinking. You're overwhelmed and you constantly worry. Every season finds you worrying more and more because at some point in your life, you just worrying became a habit. And and I know what you're going to say. It's what people say, well, just things have went stupid. So many times they've went sideways in my life. The bubble got bursted. I know it. I've been there. But what I'll tell you is now, years down the road, the reason you stay overwhelmed and you worry, and now you got a good excuse for it, is because about a high percentage of the things that went wrong is because you worried them into existence trying to overthink it. You're drowning in your feelings. The drama you bring to your life has put so many people away. You worry and you're overwhelmed about things that most of them you worried into existence. You wonder why you're driving yourself crazy. It's a stupid season, but when we make it more stupid than we should, it's even more stupid. Quit overthinking it. All right, here we go. Some things in your life are never going to make sense. Ever. But it don't have to make sense for you to move. Oh, it didn't make sense to Israel. God didn't give them the absolute what was going to happen on the seventh day. He said March. He told them it was going to fall, but they didn't know how it was going to fall. God promised you, I'm going to take care of it. You don't know how. It doesn't have to make sense for you to move. And check this out. Just because you move, it isn't going to necessarily make it make sense. Move anyways. Moving. I know that it flipped. You cannot believe what they did to you. Move anyways. You are holding guilt because you cannot believe what you did to them. Move anyways. People don't make sense, and when we hurt and we try to make sense out of things that don't make sense, we begin to act senseless. Ain't nobody mad at you, and if they are, God's not, so you need to just get to moving. Your situation in your life have been way harder than it should because you've been overthinking, trying to make sense out of it, trying to give your brain a break and march. Move. And I know what you're thinking right now. I know what you're thinking. And I got to close this out. So, band, y'all go ahead and make your way. I had to call them ahead of time because, I know that I went over. You're thinking like that. I see Israel and I'm like, this is one city. You're like, this is one wall. You see a thing in the Bible, you're like, this is one miracle. I need 10 miracles. I've got 50 walls. This is where you missed it. We've read this Sunday school story to kids, and we've gotten it all wrong. We think that Israel beat Jericho and just marched in the promised land. But I got news for you. This was not their final victory. This was their first. This was their first victory. Jericho was the first city in that journey. You don't get to game 7 on my NBA playoffs. I know people at 11 will appreciate that more. On my NBA, you don't get to game 7 without winning some games in the process. And the reason that you can't win some games is because you're stuck in the losses. And you can't, you're having trouble seeing the victory in front of you because you don't celebrate the victory behind you. You look up your mountain and you're intimidated because you see how far you have to go, but you haven't even looked down to see how far you've come. And you wonder why you just sit on a mountain and you don't move, and you're trying to make sense out of stuff that will never make sense. And if you would look down and see the stuff you've come out of, you will celebrate and begin to get encouraged, and you will move up a mountain even when things don't make sense. But you don't get to game 7 until you start moving and winning some games now, and the reason you're not winning is because you're stuck. I want to take this back to mine and Derek's conversation, because the question is now is, do you trust God? Do you trust God? I'm about to tell you what moving looks like. Do you trust God? Derek and I had this conversation. We talked about last week the way when we get worried, and I'm telling you, worry used to hit us a lot harder than when we get worried and we feel the stress coming on. What we do is we begin to pull from past wins. Because Derek and I, even in our mid-30s, we've seen God do some incredible things in some insane seasons. And we begin to, when we're worried, when we're overwhelmed, we're like, okay, let's pull from past wins, because if we've seen him do it before, we can have hope that he'll do it again. And when that happens, you don't have to make sense out of it. The question is, Catalyst, do you trust God? Because when you obsess over things, when you project, when you're constantly overthinking, when you refuse to be open, it's not because you're broken, it's because you don't trust God. It's because you don't trust God. And what I want you to know, y'all don't have to start playing yet. What I want you to know, I'm in my head because I know I got to get out. I got to finish this. We got some our baptizees, is that the way you say it? I'm sorry. Their struggles are just as bad as yours. But what we celebrate today is they're no longer making sense out of this season or out of all the seasons behind them. What they're doing is they're moving. Kristen Jordan, she comes to do events. Here's my application for moving. I spent the whole message talking about overthinking. Here it is. You ready? Kristen Jordan works 2 jobs. 2 jobs. She not only comes in here, she's right there. She not only comes in here, sits on the front and worships. She can barely hold her eyes open some Sundays. When she came in here to get baptized and record the baptism, you see, she was exhausted. She got less than 2 hours of sleep the night before, and it was early evening that day. But she said, I want to grow. She told a truck stop was her second job, and they told her, we're going to give you Sundays, but they didn't. You know what she did? She didn't say, well, I just got to work. She said, this is where I'm growing. This is the people I choose to be around. This is what it takes. Goodbye. I'll find another job. You want to see moving? Hey, she needed the money. She's a single mom, but she says, I'm not making sense out of it. I'm moving. Victoria, she said it. She's got darkness. She comes in here and she will be in tears when she hits the door. She will say, this is a dark season for me, but I'm here. This is where I give life, and I'm not missing it. She missed one Sunday since we went back, and she slept all day, and she texts me, I'll never do it again, and she hasn't. She hasn't. Carly Livingston, that Livingston family has been through so much crap. And I've seen some stuff just since they've come to Catalyst. That family can't catch a break. That sweet girl has not let anything take her sweetness. Oh, Brandy and Michael Moore, he said it best. He said, I realize I got to go all in. This is the next step. Tanya Holland is going to get baptized live at 11. Single mom, 3 kids. When I tell you her life is stressful, she's a single mom of 5 kids. Her and 3 of them are getting baptized. She texts me. I'm talking, sometimes I can feel the pain over text, but she's not making sense out of it anymore. She says, I got to move because it's never going to make sense. Sarah Perez that'll get baptized at the 11 o'clock. She got widowed last year. She was married 26 years, 4 kids. He died at like 41. And she told me, I got baptized with him, but I know I can't make sense out of this season. I've just got to commit. He's not here anymore, but God, I am, and I got to keep going, and I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna celebrate it. There are some things that will never, ever make sense, but they don't have to for you to move. And there's some walls in your life that are not going to come down till you just begin to move. Just move, Catalyst.